If one had to ask around this community for an opinion on Alex Albon, you're likely to get a response like this.
Alex Albon is bloody wonderful.
It never fails to ask the fan club president, eh? So it seems that Mr. Albon is a wonderful lad, the darling of the younger fan base, and that he's deserving of another shot in Formula 1 over drivers in the feeder series who have proven a lot and continue to do so as of the recording of this video. But as some others have pointed out, his first stint in Formula 1 wasn't an overwhelming success, drowning quite badly against teammate Max Verstappen, and didn't seem to be able to deal with the pressure in the heat of battle. And hey, to be fair, nor can Piers Morgan. But now that he's been announced at Williams for the 2022 season after George Russell jumped ship to Mercedes, everyone seemingly has their wish. But there are a couple of questions that I'll seek to answer in this video. Yeah, big departure from the usual one question. Ambitious, isn't it? The first is, how will Albon cope with a second lease of life in Formula 1? And secondly, does he deserve it?
Sometimes when I can't find my room, I'll just sit and hold on to you.
So let's first look into the origins of the issue. And it all stemmed from when Albon was promoted from Toro Rosso to Red Bull in mid-2019. At the time, Pierre Gasly was drowning quite badly in his role as second driver, and so switching drivers around seemed like the logical thing to do. Although, why they didn't promote Daniel Kvyat for the remainder of the year and let Albon develop some more at Toro Rosso, I don't know. But they did it anyway. Starting from the Belgian Grand Prix, he came from 17th on the grid to finish 5th, which was a damn good performance all things considered. For the remainder of the year, his drives weren't massively amazing, but they were promising in several key aspects. He showed some balls with his maneuvers, and despite being Sir Lewis at Interlagos, it was a bloody good drive before that happened. So heading into the next season, now with a car he would be more familiar with, there was the expectation that he would perform better, and while not necessarily beating him, be within striking distance of Max Verstappen. And while there was some initial promise following the first round of the season, the rest of the year that followed flew by like a DC-10 in the 70s, which, if you didn't know, I already chronicled the season in large part up to the German Grand Prix. Yeah, I still refuse to call it the Eiffel Grand Prix. To me, it's the German, or it being at the Nürburgring, Luxembourg Grand Prix. How were the rest of his races at Red Bull, really? Well, Portugal wasn't all that great. He struggled to get temperature into the tyres during the race and ended up suffering in the mid-pack, a lap down an eventual winner, Sir Lewis. Then at Imola for the San Marino Grand Prix, yeah, you know where I'm going with this. He was on track for a decent result, despite the early part of the race being meh, and then completely dropped it on the exit of Villeneuve. At this point, people were becoming more and more fed up with these underwhelming performances, while on the opposite end of the scale, people were becoming more fed up with the lack of support being thrown Albon's way. No, hold on. Scar and Mufasa on a cliff edge in Africa, that's a lack of support. Red Bull were giving him support, but it was just clear as day that despite everything, the results just weren't coming, for whatever reason, but they were willing to give him more time. In Turkey, he put his car on the second row of the grid, which was a commendable effort, overshadowed only by the king of the wet getting his first pole, and despite finishing in P7, behind Max, his race was largely good, with him sitting in P3 for a while. It was progress, despite what the results said on paper. He just needed to keep this up, and in Bahrain, he would secure his second podium of the year, finishing in behind Max. But this result only really came about after Checo's engine went up like Mount St. Helens, and we couldn't really say that the Racing Point was a better car than the Red Bull. Yet, Checo was out of a drive for next year, and people were getting angry, including myself, but then again, I'm angry about everything. And these calls for Checo to be signed up to Red Bull were amplified with a last to first victory at the Sakhir Grand Prix, a long overdue victory for a guy who had earned his place in the sport. Albon, meanwhile, failed to make it into Q3 and finished P6 overall, despite his teammate and both Mercs falling afoul of misfortunes. His last race at the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix was actually a solid effort all around, and one that was sorely needed from the start of this campaign. But at this stage, it seemed that the decision was made within the Red Bull camp. Checo would be signed up for 2021, and Albon was out of Formula 1 after the AlphaTauri seats would be taken up by Pierre Gasly and Suki Tsunoda. After he was dropped, it appeared that the Formula 1 dream may have been over for him. A promotion back to AlphaTauri wasn't all that likely given the wealth of talent within the Red Bull Junior team, and Helmut Marko having come to terms with the fact that sometimes bringing people back into the fray doesn't give him the results he wants. What he did have, however, was a role as a test and reserve driver for 2021 and a drive in the DTM series running alongside it. His time as a test driver at Red Bull has earned him plaudits from his peers, who say that his feedback was vital toward their title assault in 2021, and in the DTM series, he won at the Nürburgring, securing his first racing win since 2018. And this, in a lot of people's minds, was justification for Albon's case of returning to Formula 1. Fair enough, but to that I say, what about Liam Lawson? 3 wins as of the recording of this video whilst in the same team. Does he deserve a shot at F1 too? The point I'm trying to make here is that one win in DTM isn't something that's going to convince a lot of people that he's going to shake shit up when he returns to Formula 1. But the people at Red Bull still fought tooth and nail to get this guy back onto the Formula 1 grid, with them looking so far as to get him into a rival team, with Alfa Romeo and Williams being the prime candidates. I haven't seen this much loyalty since Gary Sens shot John Malkovich in the head. It started to become more evident, however, that Williams was going to be where he would land, and on the 8th of September, it was finally confirmed that he would be driving there for the 2022 season. And so we arrive at the questions posed at the start of the video. How will Albon cope with a second lease of life in Formula 1? Well, he clearly didn't cope with the pressure cooker environment of Red Bull, and to be fair to him, most drivers would melt from the inside out over there, especially with Max Verstappen as your teammate. Williams is different, obviously. The other driver is Latifi. You know, actually, to be fair to the king, Latifi has been worth the money he's bringing in. His performances have been solid enough thus far, with his race pace actually being decent. So it's not as if Albon's going to walk into the team and have an easy time of it. Because despite him not exactly being the best driver since Tazio Nuvolari, Latifi's not as slow as some may think he is. Having said that, Albon is likely to thrive in this environment, where there is not as much pressure to perform as there was in Red Bull, while at the same time having that previous experience in a top team. And this is something that's echoed by former teammate Verstappen, and in turn Alex Albon, in a Williams team that's slowly rising from the dead, heading into a season where the new rigs will likely shake up the grid. And now that the Dams F2 2018 Dream Team has been reformed, this is a tantalizing prospect. We've seen what he can do in junior Formula series that have come before, and we've seen glimpses of potential in a Formula 1 car before he got the axe. I mean, imagine if Williams got it all right, and Albon won the title next year. Or am I on the same shit that Elon Musk is on? So anyway, I reckon he'll make good on his F1 return. But the second question to answer out of all of this, does he deserve it? Well, I mean, that's subjective. If you were to ask this guy, he'd say yeah. If you were to ask his fans, they'd say f yeah. And if you were to query the Red Bull hierarchy, they'd say yeah, just not with us. What's my take on it? Yeah, maybe. And I say that because while he already had a decent shot at Formula 1 that not a lot of other drivers in the world would have, and that this second lease of life is an even rarer occurrence, we're judging him off a stint in a Red Bull seat that has just been cursed since 2019. It's a poison chalice. Nobody wants to touch it. It's the F1 equivalent of Rob Schneider. Pierre Gasly and Checo Perez have both struggled against Max Verstappen in that seat. So what happened with Alex was not an isolated incident, but we know what Gasly can do in a car because we've seen that at AlphaTauri. We know what Checo can do because of pretty much every year leading up to this one. There's no reason why we can't extend the same benefit of doubt toward Alex here. For that reason, it's worth giving this guy the time of day when he gets to Williams. If he drowns again after a full calendar year, cool, throw him to the wolves. But I kind of doubt that's going to happen because, after all,
Alex Albon is bloody wonderful.
Anyways, thank you all for watching. Drop a comment below, subscribe to the channel if you're awesome, and always remember, keep it respectful, be wholesome, don't be a menace, and as always, I'll see you all later.